Hey there YouTube, it's Artichoke Dip here, solo RPG gamer. So with this video, what I'm going to do is a basic introduction to solo RPG role-playing. Now, when I made my introduction videos, they were made at the perspective that people who have been playing role-playing games for a while that wanted to try solo RPG and to explain to them how to do that. And a lot of the subscribers and people that I have answered questions to and talked with, some of them are just new to the hobby and they don't know where to go. And so I'm going to make this video for the beginner. And if you're old school RPGer, a lot of this is going to be, you know, information you already know. And if you're new into RPG and you're new into the hobby, then this is going to be, you know, pretty informative video for you. So first thing, let's get out of the way and talk about what is an RPG game. A tabletop role-playing game is where you create a character and you take on the persona of that character in a fantasy world setting. Now, with any role-playing game, unlike board games and card games, traditional style card games I'm talking about here, you know, the object is to win the game. And with a role-playing game, there is no win-lose scenario. The whole object of the game is a story-rich environment in which your characters go on a quest to achieve their quest goals. And once those are completed, normally how an RPG works is the story at that point will give them multiple story threads that come off of that for them to continue onto another quest, another part of the story, and to explore the fantasy world that the character is playing in. So with that being said, the books I'm going to recommend to you here are for the absolute beginner. Now, if you're new to RPG and you've never played a tabletop role-playing game and you do not know where to go, and a lot of people are starting to get into this, and I don't mean just the solo RPG end of it, I mean tabletop role-playing games. A lot of people are starting to migrate back to the old gaming systems, and well, they're cool. In my opinion, they're really cool. You know, there are big differences between electronic gaming, which in electronic gaming you are held to the restraints of that game developer, and when they develop the game, generally even in quest mode, you're following the story narrative and you have to hit certain key points of that game to unlock the next level or obtain a certain item to unlock the next level. Now, not all electronic games like that. Some of them are very immersive and very open-ended. A few of them I'm going to throw out here would be like Lord of the Rings Online, Worlds of Warcraft, EverQuest, Dungeons and Dragons Online, you know, where there are these large, vast worlds that you can go through and large groups of people that play. For me, I used to do a lot of electronic gaming, particularly when it was new and it came out, and with the PS3. And I did enjoy it. And then after a while, it kind of left me yearning for more. And so I went back to my tabletop RPGing, and you know, I've been there ever since, and I really enjoy tabletop RPGing, as do a lot of people. So you're new into this, you don't know where to go, and with this hobby, the way that the marketing is set up for anything today, whether it be electronic gaming, tabletop role-playing, miniature, whatever you get into, is it's set up to lure you in to buy. Because, let's face it, it is a business and it's a money-driven business. But what I want to do is arm you with the knowledge so you can buy the correct material to give you the most bang for your buck and to have fun and not break the bank at the same time. So one game system I was kind of oblivious to, and recently a few subscribers said, hey, have you ever tried this? And so I picked up a copy and I tried it. And that game system is this one right here. And this is called Fabled Lands. And it is a... If you're brand new into the hobby, I highly suggest you get this and you try it. And all you need are 2 6-sided dice, which you can get out of, you know, if you have a Monopoly board game in your house, then you'll have what you need to play this. And literally the only things required for it are 2 6-sided dice, a piece of paper, and a pencil. Now, this system, the way it's set up, and the introduction is only a couple pages. It'll only take you a few minutes to actually read it and get the rules set down. And you go through it. It gives you pre-generated characters. You pick the character that you want to choose, and you record that information onto your sheet. And then you go through and you read, and you make a decision, and it'll give you three different scenarios you can choose from. And you pick one, and it will take you to that area in the storyline. And depending on how you, on the decisions you make, will basically alter the outcome of your adventure in this. Now, of course, there's many more books of these in the series. When I finish this one, I might pick up another one. This is one after work when I come home, and I just want to do some light gaming, and this is what I'll use. I enjoy it because I can take it out on the deck, and I can sit on the deck with my coffee, and I can sit out there and enjoy the evening, play this, and I only need 2 dice to actually do it. So, but for the beginner, this was, I think I only paid like 13 bucks for this, and that was shipped to me. So for 13 bucks, you get a role-playing game system, and you can go through it and play it. And if you play it and you say, hey, I like this, this is fun, this is something I would like to try because it's set up for solo RPG, then at that point, I'm going to get into a little bit more on the different game systems out there. So there are 3 different systems out there that utilize different dice. Now, we have what is called the silhouetted system, which utilizes 2 6-sided dice or more of a dice pool, depending. And a lot of people like the system. It's for people I have talked to, some of them said that they don't like using a D20 system that uses polyhedral dice, and I'll get into that in a minute, because they said it's too complicated to them, and using a silhouetted dice system game actually makes it's, how do I put it, not as complicated, I guess the point I'm getting at. And that's okay. I played plenty of silhouetted game systems. They're fun, and you know, don't mistake because one system used one particular dice compared to the other that it's gonna somehow take away from the fun or something. That's just entirely not true whatsoever. So when you're looking at the description of the book and it says it utilizes a either D6 or silhouetted game system, you'll know what they're talking about. They're talking about regular 6-sided die. Now, let me get my dice tray out here. So, the next system I'm going to talk about, which is called a D20 system. And a D20 system will utilize your 20-sided die, and this is what they call the polyhedral. And inside that dice set, you will use a 20-sided, a 12-sided, an 8-sided, a 10-sided, a 10-sided percentile, which I'll elaborate on that a little bit more here in a minute, a 6-sided, and a 4-sided dice. Now, with game systems like this, you have a lot more that goes into it as far as open-endedness with randomized tables and combat matrices. Okay, so those game systems tend to be more elaborate, and depending on your gaming taste, this is going to help make you make a decision on what game system may be correct for you in your solo RPG. So, the third system that you'll see is what they call a percentile system. Now, a percentile system, let me get my dice out here to show you, will utilize 2 dice, and they're 2 10-sided dice. One which gives you your 10s, which is from 10 up to 90, and then of course you got your 00 that will represent your 100, and then your normal 10-sided that represents your 1 through 10. And by rolling these 2 dice, you're going to get anywhere up from a range from 1 all the way up to 100. Now, many of these game systems that use percentile tend to be very skill set heavy in their game systems. So when you generate a character, you're going to go through and you're going to pick from a multitude of skill sets that you're going to add to your character to detail them, and then as you play through the system, you're going to use them skill sets and the bonuses they give you with your roll on your percentile and for your success or your failure. And then the majority of game systems you'll see out there, and I'm going to throw one out there, Worlds of Darkness is one, utilizes 10-sided dice. Rollmaster uses the percentiles. Harp, High Adventure Role-Playing, will use the 10-sided systems. There's a lot of systems out there. MERP, Middle Earth Role-Playing System. Oh my gosh. MERP, Middle Earth Role-Playing Game System, utilizes 2d10s. So, now these game systems, sometimes they will not explain to you what they actually use, and you'll have to read the description a little bit more to see if it's a silhouetted D6, a D20 system, or a percentile system. Now, majority of the D20 systems out there, when you look at them, they will tell you right in the description this is a D20 system, so you'll already know. Now, armed with that knowledge, let's talk about game systems. Older original editions compared to the modern. And I have talked about this, and I'm going to explain why for the beginner. So, when role-playing games first came out in their infancy, and we had basic D&D, and you also had Rollmaster show up at that time, and there's many more that, and some of them that I have never played, and the rule sets were simple. And they were very easy to roll a character. They were very easy to use, and they were set up in the mind frame in about 10 minutes. You could have a character and be playing. So as role-playing games progressed, and over the years, starting from the late 80s into the early 90s, a lot of role-playing game systems went to trying to create systems that were more realistic to real life. And then we saw this transition to more complex rules, more things that you could do in combat, skill sets, proficiencies, and they helped enhance the role-playing game experience. Now, some of those editions are excellent for solo RPG play. Now, as the years progressed and we saw this large re-emergence of role-playing games, and in the early 2000s, Wizards of the Coast re-released Dungeons & Dragons, and they redid the way that the previous editions had utilized the battle systems in those games. And they made it very simple, very streamlined. The character creation took longer, and there was more into it. They added in feats, and they added in skills. And so your character creation took longer. Once you had your character and you were playing in a group, it actually is pretty simple when you play in the group. Very easy to teach other people how to play. And the re-emergence began. And then as it moved forward and electronic gaming became larger, at that point the role-playing game companies had to kind of step up their game a bit, and they had to make the games more complex in order to challenge the players even more, to keep them interested, to compete with electronic gaming and keep their products out there and noticeable. So most modern role-playing game systems, and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about here. Let me grab my example. And the reason why I talk about the older systems compared to some of the modern systems, if you're just getting into this, why I highly recommend that you start off with an older system. So right here, I talk about this a lot. If you're a subscriber and you watch my videos, you already know about this game system, Basic Fantasy. Basic Fantasy is a complete game system, all in this book, and it has everything you need to play this game. It has all your encounters, your characters, your character creation, and it'll explain to you how to create dungeons, how to play a little bit in wilderness. Everything you really need is contained inside of this book, okay? And the reason why I suggest this is because A, you can get it for about $5 from Amazon delivered to you, okay? Or if you don't want to spend the $5, you can go straight, and I'm going to show you right here. I show this all the time, www.basicfantasy.org. You can go straight to their site, and you can actually download this rule system, and I believe you can download the book for free to play. So you have that option. But the main reason why I recommend this book for people new to solo RPG, and I'm going to show you, this is a complete role-playing game system. This, for the modern role-playing games, for Pathfinder, now I like Pathfinder, I'm not saying anything bad about Pathfinder whatsoever, but I'm just going to show you a complete role-playing game system, player's manual only. This is just the player's manual. This is what you have to go through to create a character and get a brief overview of how to play the game. Now, great game, very fun. I played this and I've had fun with it. Like it. Very complex. A lot of reading. There's a lot of rules. They've added a lot more into the battle. A lot more you can do in the battle. And for somebody new into role-playing games, especially solo, if you're going to be doing solo RPG, this is not something you're going to want to jump right into. This is something that you would want to play in a group with other people to learn the game system and then adapt it to play solo later on. So I wouldn't recommend this system to a beginner. This system would be good for somebody who has a good, I'm going to say, foundational understanding of role-playing games and how role-playing games are actually set up and ran. They'll be able to jump into this and read it and adapt and move on with it fairly quickly. But if you're new to role-playing games and you've never played a role-playing game before, I would not recommend this. I would recommend this later on, once you get the hang of things, and then go into this one. So, you're probably wondering, what game systems do I recommend? Fair enough. So, I have 4 books I'm going to talk about here, and one of them is a standalone game system, plus it uses a DM emulator. And that's going to be one of the really first books that you get that you're going to want to have in your arsenal, the solo RPG. That book is going to be this one right here, Mythic, which is a game emulator. And this will, what it helps you with is certain points of a role-playing game. You're going to be encounter certain questions and scenarios to where you're going to need an answer to an outcome. Now, this has a fate chart which it utilizes, and by using the chaos factor and by applying the scenario that you have will help you decide the chaos factor on the chart, and then you roll the dice, and by looking at that chart it's going to give you an answer of yes or no. So it's kind of what it is it's a DM emulator matrix. Now, believe it or not, I love Mythic. I use Mythic a lot. This actually really works very well, and I've had great success with it. And it's a must-have if you're going to solo RPG. This is a must-have book. You're going to really want this book. Now, with that being said, as I say in all my videos about this book, this is just a crutch. Not a crutch, it's a tool. But if it's used too much, it becomes a crutch, and you'll rely on it too much. Now, you could buy this book, and this book is a standalone RPG system, and it will explain to you how to use Mythic. And that's absolutely fine. You could run it that way. I just use it for the fate chart, and that's how I do my solo RPGs. And I have other videos explaining how I use the Mythic system. So this video is not about the Mythic system, how to use the Mythic system. I'm just explaining to you 3 game systems that I would recommend for you to try out when you're new to solo RPG. Okay, the first one I'm going to show you, this is a D20 system, and this is another book that's one RPG system all in itself. You buy one book, you get the whole RPG system, and that's called the White Box. This is a very simplistic game. This is based off of basic Dungeons and Dragons when it started out. Very rules light. You read through it. It's very simple to understand. It gives you a character sheet, and as you can see with the character sheet, it's very simple. You'll go through and it's going to explain to you about your attributes and how the attributes affect your character when you roll it. Like I said, it's a very simple system, and it's a very good system. I have played out of this, picked it up, and I enjoy it. I really do. When I'm feeling nostalgic and I want to play some old school D&D, this is the one I'll pick up and I'll play out of. And if you're new to solo RPG, this would be a good one for you to pick up, called the White Box. Now, it's going to set you back about $18 to $20 depending on who you buy it from. And you could use this in conjunction with this and be well on your way to having a great time with solo RPG. The next one I'm going to talk about is actually an old game system, and it's been out there for quite a while, and it uses a D6 silhouetted system. And the difference is when you use a D6 silhouetted system, is you're typically rolling your six-sider, adding your combat skill into it, and as with this game, all your characters are going to roll. You're going to roll once and add all their combats into it and come up with a number. And then you're going to do the same thing with the opposing side, which is going to be called the encounters. Those two numbers are going to be put together and then subtracted. What is left is the damage that the defending side will take. And so the combat's pretty simple. Now, as far as character creation, whereas with this system, it's going to give you a list of characters that you can be, and you're really limited to that. That's all you can use. It's a very templated game system. These are the characters. This is what you can use. What makes the changes in the characters are the ability skills of the character. Whereas with this game I'm talking about, Tunnels and Trolls, right here, it's actually gives you more freedom with a character. So if you're looking into getting into a role-playing game and you really don't want to be bound to a templated character, you want to have the freedom to create the character how you see them and have that freedom, and looking for a simplistic system to use, I would suggest Tunnels and Trolls is what I would suggest. Rules are very simple to understand. You know, in one evening you could read the book and understand it and be playing it. This set right here, you know, when I got this, it came out, it was a 30th anniversary edition, which came with this nice little tin box and these dice and all this other really cool stuff that it came in here with. And you're probably going to pay an arm and a leg for it now because it's out of, I'm not going to say it's out of print, but I bought mine when it was first released, so, and I think I paid around like $25 or $27 for it. And in this game system, you get the rules, and it also gives you some cool battle maps to pull out and use what you're going to want, which will give you a visual representation of the battlefield and will really help you with solo RPG. And of course, they also give you in this game system. Now, I use a lot of miniatures in my games, so that's, if you're wondering, that's the reason why I haven't punched these. I've just left them in there. And they give you these cool little punch outs that you can use on the map to represent your characters and represent the encounters in the game to help you. Now, you can pick up the original Tunnels and Trolls, and Tunnels and Trolls is still an active role-playing game system, and I think they're into, gosh, I want to say their 5th or 6th edition of it now. I would have to look. Well, yeah, they got to be, because this is the 7th edition I have right here. This is the 7th edition. So, and it's a simple game system for the solo RPGer. You're new to it, you could pick this up, and it's a self-contained RPG system. Everything you need is in here to play, and literally everything you need is in here. And it gives you, what more can I say? Everything. I mean, you get the dice with it, you get the maps, you get the little cardboard coin punch outs, you get the rule books, you get everything. And then you just read through it, understand the rules, and create your character and start solo RPGing. So that would be my second recommendation. If you're just new into RPGing, you're getting into the hobby, and you don't know where to go, that would be my number 2 game for you to pick up. Now, I'm going to talk about the one that I talk about the most, and this one, I have played this extensively. I love it. I love the game system. It's The way the book is laid out is excellent. The editing on it is excellent. The price is excellent. Everything about it, I can't say enough good things about it. It's why I recommend it. And like I said, you can download it for free. You can spend $5 and get it. And that's basic fantasy role-playing game, which is the reason why in all my videos I talk about this and I recommend this. And everybody, I think, may have a assumption that either I promote this, which I don't promote it, as I'm going to say in all my videos. I don't make any money off of any of this. This is all my hard-earned money that I make here. And I picked this up and I loved it, and now I've been playing solo. I've been a solo RPGer for a long time. And I found this, and the reason why I picked this up is because I have the original D&D books that came out way back when. And they're starting to get old, and the bindings are not even bindings, or staples are starting to rust away, and the pages are getting real delicate. And it would cost me a lot of money to replace those at this point. So I have put those in a plastic sleeve and they sit on the shelf. And so I bought this so I could play my old school D&D and have a system to play on that's the same thing. And that's readily available still in print, and that I can replace if something were to happen to it. And I recommend it to you, the solo RPG, or just getting into it. Very simple rule set, same thing, you know, you could spend an evening reading this, and you're going to understand the rules, you're going to understand how to create a character. It's got all your encounters in it. It has everything you need to run a game in this system. And all you need is a little bit of imagination. Now, both of these systems, here and here, and like any RPG that you play, it's a theater of the mind. So as a story happens and evolves, this is all happening in your mind, and you're going to see it in your mind. Now, with these two systems, you're going to get a great open-ended. What I mean by open-ended is it's vast, and you are only limited to your imagination in these systems with RPGing. But you're not going to get any visual representation of the battle or anything else, and that's going to be up to you to either draw it out on graph paper and create it, purchasing miniatures, or however else you want to represent them on the board, if in order to bring some of your battles to life, if you choose to do that. Some people, they don't use miniatures. Some people enjoy just to sit down and use these books and have everything in their mind and write everything out. And that is very cool. And me, I love miniatures. I use miniatures. I love making miniature terrain, so I use miniatures in my solo RPG. But not everybody does. But if you want the system, or you want some miniatures, some maps and stuff to start out on, and you want everything in one combo, go with this one, Tunnels and Trolls. So you got 3 systems. If you're just getting into this and you don't know where to go, those are the top 3 that I recommend for you to choose how to get you into solo RPG. Now, in my first introductory video, which is the first video I ever made for this channel, what I talked about there, and I'm going to explain to you, and it's very important. So you want to get a basic notepad, just notepad. That's all you need, and a pencil. And when you start out, you're going to write out your brief story overview. Why are your characters there? What is the purpose of them being there? What is the purpose of the adventure about? And why are they going out and completing this adventure? And what will they get out of the adventure if they do complete it? So you're going to write a brief story overview of that, and then put that in your notebook. And that becomes scene 1. That's your first scene of your role-playing. Scene 2 will be the actual when you start role-playing. When you leave Scene 2, a good one for me to explain to you, if you've seen the movie Lord of the Rings, when Gandalf is talking to Frodo and Samwise Gamgee and telling them, be very careful on your travels, the Dark Lord has many servants in his service, okay, as they're walking through the meadow. That's the beginning of Scene 2. If you're playing a solo RPG, which is, and then you're going to progress through your RPG from there. Encounters, NPCs. NPC, which means non-player character that you would meet. Everything you're going to jot down. You're going to put down the highlights of each gaming session that you do. Now, I limit myself to 1 hour per session, take a break, go back to it, and I may play 3-4 hours in one day, or maybe 1 hour when I decide to game. That's entirely up to you. I like to do 1 hour, take a break for a little bit, go back, do another hour, take a break, go back, do another hour, and then I will write everything down in my journal. And I do this because you can actually go back through, look at the history, and actually see this story come alive. And it only helps you. Now, if you decide to put this RPG system down for a while and take a break from it from a couple of weeks, a couple of months, or what have you, you can always go back, go to the last entry, read it, and then you're right back into the story with your characters and start your game back up from there. So guys, I think that's going to wrap it up for this video. So if you are new to solo RPG, you don't know where to start, I highly recommend that's where you start. If you are, I guess I should say, in the market and you're looking, what I would suggest is try Amazon first. Amazon has some of the best prices and on the products that you're going to find. eBay is good, as well as there are so many tabletop merchandisers out there on the web that you can buy from. Now, one, and I will give you a word of caution, and I've heard some people bring this up, is Craigslist. You could go to Craigslist and buy some used RPG stuff. If you choose to do so, don't forget, guys, take somebody with you. Have somebody with you, just in case. We've all heard the horror stories that come out of some of them encounters. So, don't want to see that happen to any of you guys. So, with that being said, this is my introductory video to the absolute beginner coming into the solo RPG hobby. I hope this helps. Please feel free to leave me some comments, any questions, if you're, and I'll answer them as quickly as I can. Alright guys, thanks a lot, have a great day, and game on, my friends.